Hey everyone, and welcome to Signals from the Frontline, your every Wednesday live broadcast brought to you here by Frontline Gaming. We are your hosts, Nicky Dee, producer extraordinaire, and I'm Seth the Mad Duck, your competitive correspondent. Nicky, bud, how you been doing?
Hey, it's another week that I am on, and I'm on video now, so I'm getting used to this. I think we're getting the hang of things
Yeah,
here.
yeah,
But I'm good. Seth, you're back after a week, actually more than a
yeah. A
week.
couple weeks off for me.
How's it feel to be? How does it feel for you to be back in the seat? Is this just
It's
second
good
nature?
to it's good to be back in the chair. You know, I missed being here, but the week after ACO, I came back. I got back in late Monday. Tuesday night, I actually recorded a piece with another
Yep.
content creator I'll talk about later, and
Yeah.
I was just straight back into work Tuesday, and I was gassed. And then last week I was ready to come back, and then
You were.
Nurgle Matt specifically blessed me with a cold in the middle of the summer, so I basically lost my voice that day, and I was like, well, I guess I'm not doing the show. So
Yeah.
it's good to be back. It's good to be back.
Good. You are fully voiced here, ready to go at full
Yep.
at full volume.
I had a checkup today, but they said my throat was still a little abnormal. But I'm here. I'm ready for you.
I gotta say, and Seth, I was a little worried or concerned because with me being in the seat here with Kicker, you're
Mhm.
so used to doing the introduction, and it is, you might almost say it's a fixed introduction.
Mhm.
But then we were changing it up to kind of
You
have
went
this
tactical.
tactical. Yeah, I was waiting to see, are you going to go a fixed approach? You're going to go a tactical approach? And I think you're geared up for the tactical mission cards, my friend. How do you feel about that?
So I've been playing some games, and
Yeah,
right off the bat, I was playing fixed, kind of feeling like that was, the more reliable.
way to go.
But I really had some friends push me, and then I had the guys over at Vanguard Tactics push me to
Oh yeah.
really try out and build a list to play tactical. Got to say, I'm a tactical guy now. How about you,
Well,
Nikki?
yeah, I'm gonna find out because I am playing in my first 10th edition RTT this upcoming weekend. I got my list locked in,
Yeah.
and it does include both a Great Unclean One and Rodigus, the named Great Unclean One. So it's I don't know how I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna play. I want to go and play 3 games in a day, see how I
Mhm.
feel about the thing. I'm running a Monster Mash list with
Yep. Yep.
with Be'lakor, with the Lord of Change, with Kairos Fate Weaver. As I'm looking through the codex and as I've talked to some other Demons player, I am definitely feeling the pull to going towards a more wide list, more small units that are able to do things. So we'll see how this goes. We're figuring out a lot of things about 10th edition, including Seth, something we'll talk about later, about terrain formats, what's
Mhm.
recommended there, the missions for tournaments. So right now I'm in a trial and error position, but I just want to go and play with 2 Great Unclean Ones. That's my approach for the weekend. So that's where
Well,
we're going to be.
I did have a little. I wouldn't. I hesitate to call it hobby progress, but technically I did paint this army, so I'm counting it as hobby progress for this week.
Yes.
I reacquired some of you from the show back when remember Shelby. I had painted her this kind of metallic blue and orange Necron army. She's downsizing her collection, and the rule I had when I painted that army was if you ever try to sell it, you got to sell it to me first. So I reacquired the Shelby Crons. They're back in my possession. So excited to mess around with them. They're not going to be, my mainstay. Obviously, mainstay is orcs,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I have a lot of cool Necrons now, and I made it a tabletop scheme so I can get it up to tabletop standard very quickly. That was the
That's
goal with
always
that particular army. So it is something that I could kind of throw around and get on the table quickly if I need to. So I'm excited to have it back. So that's my hobby progress. Did you have any hobby
No,
progress? Oh,
no,
you
I
were
was
off
I
partying and
yeah, I
gallivanting.
partying at a first birthday party for a family member. So some very serious baby games and
Yeah, yeah.
lots of lemonade. Because it was in a public park, it was just normal summer yellow lemonade, but
Mm-hmm.
always really great. So it was nice to be around family. Nice to eat a lot of good seafood since I am from New England and I grew up in a beach town up there. So that was really exciting. But I am very excited to be back onto the 40K hype train. And
Mm-hmm.
Seth, speaking of that, you wanna get into a little bit about what's going on the 40K hype train here? Come because we've got new releases.
Yep. So we've got pre-orders up, and it's the kind of same old story we've seen, which is when they release these characters in bundles, so like Farsight and Snickrot were released in combat patrols, and the Lion was released with a kind of a vanguard of a Blade Guard veteran. They are now releasing those models as individual kits, which is always great to see, because those are just one, that was the only way you get the Lion, period. And the new sculpts for Farsight and Snickrot are fantastic. So
Great.
excited to see those back out in the wild for everyone to grab and get their hands on. So, but there was something else that you were interested in.
Not only do we appreciate the models and the sculpts about the games that we play, but I'm a little bit of a you might want to call me narrative Nicky Dee. I do love to get into the
Nicky
lore.
Dee narrative.
Yeah, that could be it. So I do love to get into some reading, and actually one of the authors that I really like for Warhammer and 40k is John French, and the new and coming out on pre-order this weekend. The Cypher novel. So it's going to get into how Cypher escapes the Rock and kind of what he's doing, where he's going. It being Cypher, I'm betting there's going to be some subterfuge there.
Was it true the Lion book that came out in the end of 9th where like Cypher basically makes it to the throne room?
I did not read the Lion book. I've heard great things about that one, but it just hasn't gotten onto my reading list though.
I mean, this is like what I heard, so people could be telling me I'm a lie, but I heard he made it to the throne room and that the Emperor possessed a dead custode to talk to him, and then Cypher left the throne room and went and woke up the Lion.
Okay. Well, you know what, and Seth, I'm realizing here too that it's not just you and I on the show here tonight. We've also got the chat. There's chat. So chat, if you've been familiar, or if you just want to pull up some Google Foo real quick and get us an answer on that part too. Happy to do it, but yeah, I'm really excited. I will be pre-ordering the Cypher novel. Cypher, I think I'm not a huge Dark Angels fan myself personally, but Cypher the character I think is one of my favorite in 40k. So I'm really excited for that. That's what we got for pre-orders coming up this weekend. But Games Workshop did cover a large number of previews this past weekend. They called it the Not 40k preview. Seth, do you want to guess why?
There was no 40k.
You got it. Now there might be some models that could be used in 40k, two of them in particular. But first, though, we got to talk about we got to talk about this. Age of Sigmar. We know Cities of Sigmar is coming out. They're coming out, I think, this summer with their battle tome. And Sigmar, their battle tomes. 40k, we get our codex, right? Cities of Sigmar are what used to be known in the old world as the Empire. New kits. They've got humans. A bunch. They're the
just basic bros trying to live in that crazy realm of Sigmar.
Yes, the basic bros that are not the King Arthur knights that were the Bretonnians, which were also fantastic. But Cities of Sigmar, some amazing models that are here. I think this has always been they're I guess, Seth, would you call them like the Imperial Guard of Age of Sigmar, just your normal going around, right? They've got artillery, so they've got that. They both have armies with horses. But the thing that's above your head here, Seth, I don't see anything like that in the 40K range. This model, absolutely amazing. I'm thinking that this is definitely one that I might pick up and just paint just for the fun of it, because it's something that looks pretty cool. The details it goes into the Manticore. It's a mix of several different animals as a fantasy element, so looking really fantastic. I'm a big fan. I want to paint it up. I won't do it justice, but I'm gonna give it my darndest try. That's what I'm going to be going for. That's what I'm going to do. But we've got that. Seth, what about models that
Plastic Knights, the Knight Acheron and Knight Castigator, which were formerly two Forge World kits coming in plastic. They already the Lancer they already announced in plastic.
I think so. Yeah. So this
is now these are the other two knights on that Cerastus chassis. So I kind of expected those, but I'm excited to see them. I'm not excited to see knights. That's a different discussion, but I'm excited for those kits.
Yeah, we'll save that for the main part of today's chat, but also just given some of the other items that have been going on. So we've got a couple of knights. I probably will be adding. I do have an Imperial Knight collection myself, so I'll probably add those. I haven't really played knights in a long time, and I don't necessarily have a desire to play knights right here, right now. But I need to have them for my collection. When it comes to them, I'm more of a collector, not a player of the knight variety. But other items here, some of the Age of Sigmar skirmish-based games we've got from Warcry, the Cruel Boys Monster Killers. They've got some ape-like things there. and some
Yeah,
other interesting
yeah.
models.
I'm still not a fan of the cruel boy aesthetic, the kind of lanky, gangly
Hmm.
orc. I like my orcs meteor,
Yeah, the
meteor
to me the
orcs.
orcs, the cruel boys, they look almost too lifelike, like Lord of the Rings lifelike for me, where I kind of expect it
Yeah,
to be a more cartoonish, I think.
exactly.
So my personal take. But on the other hand, things that I do like, I grew up playing Warhammer Fantasy. I grew up playing a specific army that is the Skaven. And
Hmm.
if slash when Skaven get a total range refresh in Age of Sigmar, I will be diving in headfirst to those waters. And if they look like anything, if the models look anything like Skavik's Plague Pack from the Warhammer Underworlds that you're seeing on the screen,
Hmm.
I am totally in. Especially these guys are the clan pestilence themed plague monks, so they're your they're your rats that love disease, that they love Nurgle. So obviously, Seth, you can see the crossover with my particular love of all things Nurgle, that's there for these guys. So huge fan. Another thing where I will be picking up this pack. I will be when they eventually come out. We don't know when that's going to be yet, but this to me, that reveal, absolute home run. Love it, love it.
Well,
Uh,
we,
Speaking of things that we love.
speaking of things we love, good surprises sometimes come in small packages. Everyone was kind of hypothesizing that Epic was coming back, and they did announce Horus Heresy Legions Imperialis, which is Epic scale 40K. And I gotta tell you, I missed out on Epic when I was a kid. That was not a game I
Okay.
played, but I've always heard good things about it. So I was kind of always like keeping an eye on it and hoping it was going to come back. And as soon as I saw these models, and particularly those two warhounds in the back, I went, "Oh, are those the exact same scale that Titanicus is?" And earlier this week, they said, "Yep, those are the same scale as Titanicus and Aeronautica," meaning all of those ranges of models and those ranges of terrain,
Oh, they can cross over, huh?
it can cross over. And so I'm super excited for this system to see when it drops. If there's any game that I'm going to pick up just to kind of screw around and have as a casual game, I think this is it, because it looks so much fun. I can paint, all those little infantry and vehicles that quick tabletop,
Quick.
3 colors. I think it'd be a lot of fun to screw around with. So I'm excited for it. I don't know if other folks are, because I know the big complaint was, well, what about my Eldar and my orcs? And I'm like, I don't give a crap. Let's start here. Let's get this to work. Then they can add the other stuff. That'll be fine.
Yeah, I was a little surprised because when the previews came out Saturday, Seth, in our group chat,
Yep.
that this was the thing you were most excited for, where you're like, I must have it. Which you said you'd never played Epic. It never hit that part for me either.
Mhm.
When I hear Epic, I just think of the song "Epic" by Faith No More. That's my frame of reference for these things. But it does look really cool. I've seen been reading through some of the posts into what exactly that's going to look like. So to each their own. And yeah, a lot that's coming out from Games Workshop. A lot of really exciting reveals that we're coming from. But I think that I think that we probably didn't get any 40K previews or reveals because
It was
we're,
called the
we're
Not 40K preview.
yeah, and we're probably we know that 40K codexes are going to be coming soon, right? End of summer, beginning of fall
Mhm.
for the first couple. So I'm pretty sure that we should be expecting more 40K stuff pretty soon. But Seth, we've got plenty of new 40K stuff to cover
Yeah.
anyways. So I
Hold
think
on.
we're okay for
I
a little
got
while.
crazy news.
What's
One of the
that?
guys in chat just mentioned Cosking 555 that some of the Aeronautica planes are getting discontinued. So now I have to rush out and get the Aeronautica planes.
Mm, now
Are
you
they
have a new
still on the
mission, huh?
site?
Yeah.
I have to go check the FLG site. Can we pause the show? Let's pause the show real quick.
Yeah. All right. Well, so I mean, Seth, you might want to pause the show. You might want to, perhaps even travel back in time. That may be something you'd be interested in to make sure you get that. You've done a little bit of time travel this week. Is that am I incorrect in that?
I took a lot of Dayquil. I don't know if that counts as time
Not
travel,
what
but
I
I
was
did.
thinking about,
I
but
did. I did watch some movies. My wife and I managed to get out and go see The Flash. Uh,
okay,
Strong recommend. Or if
okay.
you are familiar with the Flashpoint storyline and you are familiar with the last 20, 30 years of DC films, you will absolutely love your time there. And I'm a movie nerd in terms of like industry side of things. I'm no defender of Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller's made a lot of
Sure.
mistakes. Ezra Miller's paying some prices for those mistakes. Ezra Miller did a fantastic job in that film, and the director and writers managed to basically get every Easter egg and cameo that you could think of jammed into that film. It was amazing. It was a lot of fun. It was like a 3-hour film. My wife and I didn't realize it was a 3-hour film until I think we had like an 11 o'clock show. We went like early on a Sunday because it's cheap.
Yep.
And we were like, man, we're hungry. And then like we were like, oh, it's 2 o'clock. That's why we were like, oh, we should go eat. But yeah, it was a fantastic film. It's not doing great in the box office. If you're a fan of the DC franchises, go see it. You're going to enjoy it. I mean, some of the cameos, I'll just give you one because your mind's going to be blown.
We'll preface this with the spoiler alert tag. So if you're listening back on YouTube or on the podcast, like fast forward, 60 seconds.
If you're familiar with the Flashpoint storyline, there is, multiverse kind of stuff going on.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What if I told you?
Yeah, spoiler. Yeah, go ahead. Let's
what if I told you that Nicolas Cage appears as Superman?
Well, because he at one point was cast, correct?
He was
as Superman, and then never
Death of
actually
Superman.
portrayed.
But that movie never came out. There were some documentaries on it a few years ago, but they managed to somehow do it. He's in the film as Superman. I mean, like, what's going on?
All right, now Seth, question coming back to you. You said there's some cameos. Do they include an Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze cameo? One of my favorites from childhood.
If they did, it was like
blinking you'll miss
quick.
It. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You can't get them all, right?
Because a lot of it takes place in like the Michael Keaton Batman universe. And I guess Clooney and Keaton are in the same universe, but I don't remember seeing any Freeze, but it was good.
Okay.
I'm trying not to spoil more things.
No, that's okay.
It was real good.
Yeah, I do think, in myself, I haven't gone to see it, Seth, but I think there's a big parallel between the Flash movie and its showing and attendance, and also like 40K events the last 2 months, where in 40K, right, people know the new edition's coming.
Yeah, and so everyone knows this is kind of the end of the current DC lineage, but it very much, because it sets up a multiverse thing, it very much leaves the door open that if James Gunn and team ever decide they want to go back and revisit a character from the old DC films,
able to
it's
go
all
with it.
Connected now.
Okay. I mean, I will never turn down more Michael Keaton. That's just, if there's like 3 things that you know me for, that's one of those 3 things. We'll cover the others at some other point, but yeah, more Michael Keaton, always a good thing.
Always worth it. I also caught up on Shazam: Fury of the Gods. That is a underrated gem. I very much enjoyed the first Shazam.
Yeah,
the second Shazam, I would say, is on the same level, if not better, than the first. And I feel like the marketing team has completely missed the mark, because that thing should have been marketed to children. Did you ever read the Percy Jackson novels?
I did not. No, right. I was not in that.
If you're into Greek mythology or any of those young adults where it's like these kids are going to go battle mythical creatures, this is your movie. Go see that freaking movie. It's on streaming now. You can just watch it at home. It's definitely worth it. I mean, there's literally a scene where they're riding unicorns fighting minotaurs and ogres and manticores and harpies, and you're like, what is going on? Yeah, so it's totally worth it, So
gotcha.
It's a good time if you like that kind of stuff. So,
all right,
and then Zach, go ahead. It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, I can feel the love that's there. Yeah, before we go on to the next, I'll make sure we got a couple of things I want to call out from chat here. Don't want to miss any of our interactions with the chat. Going back to, as we were talking about Epic, we have the Ill-Tempered Fireblade. That sounds like a Tau name to me. Mm-hmm. They want Mordheim back, another game that I know is beloved by many in the Warhammer community, more so in the fantasy sector, but that's really, really great one. We're getting a lot of love for Nicolas Cage as well. So Seth, thank you for bringing that to our attention there. That's important information for the group. And then I'm getting some other references for Michael Keaton, or movies that I should check him out in. So this is what we're doing. When we get the chat engagement, we get the great information for all of us to cover, and having that part set. But yeah, I will have to check out Shazam: Fury of the Gods. I did love the first one; thought it was great. So that will have to be added to my list.
Add it to your list. It's a good. It's like once I was like coherent enough to like focus for a full movie after all the cold meds were off. That was like my wife and I sat down and watched that one day and was like, that was like really good. Why did we not see that in theaters? Like it was one of those like, how did this miss our radar? Wait a minute. So it's good.
Mm-hmm. It was the movie was covered by Stealth, or it might have been a lone operative.
Yeah,
one
it was
of those.
It was covered by Stealth, all right. Just a horrible marketing campaign.
All right. Well, Seth, let's move. We're gonna move on to our discussion here for a little bit. Real quick, Lone Star Open LVO kicker is not here.
Yep.
You don't. He's out.
He's on vacation, but he'll be back next week, and he will have news for you all then about LSO and LVO and some other I'm probably forgetting about.
Open face sandwich, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably. We can talk about that part too. All right. So yeah, event news. We'll have a lot to cover for next week with Kicker being back, but that does now bring us, Seth, to our signals short question. So Seth, you and I are both based here out of the good old US of A, and yesterday was 4th of July, right?
Yes.
Did you fire up the grill for some hot dogs and hamburgers yesterday?
Did grill some burgers. Yep.
Nice. Excellent. Okay, so we had that part. I got to enjoy some fireworks myself. But we know that 4th of July, it's all about that red, white, and blue, baby. Mm-hmm. And hence the name of the show. Quick play on words on there. But Seth, question for you. Our signal short for today. What are the best red, white, and blue colored armies? And I want you to pick an army or a faction for each of those colors: red, white, and blue.
Very easy, man. Red's Evil Sons, white is Goths, and blue is Death Skulls. Done.
Okay, quick and easy. So we know red makes the orcs go faster.
Yep.
Blue is lucky, right?
Yep.
Okay, is there any significance for white in orc culture?
No, just Goths like black and white checkers.
Okay, that's it. And we know purple is that makes it they can't see purple, right?
It makes them invisible.
Yeah.
Okay. You ever seen a purple orc?
I
didn't think so.
Nope, have never seen it. Doesn't exist on the internet. You can't even Google it or search it on Instagram or anything else like that. Okay. Yep. So Seth, we got your answers there. I of course came prepared with my answers. Red, easy one here, folks. It's Blood Angels. Come on. What are we doing?
Yeah,
it's Blood Angels. We got blue. Gonna go with a bit of a wild card. I'm gonna go with Night Lords. Now they mix some like shades of blue in the lightning that's in there, but I mean it's either them or Ultramarines for me, and I'm
not white and blood of their enemies.
Yeah, they have some red trim, I think, for the armor, but like
I think overall they are red, white, and blue.
They kind of are. Yeah. And I mean fireworks, red, white, and blue, and with fireworks are very scary. They're scary to my dog. Not scary. He actually barks back at them. He wants to try to be louder.
Take you down.
Yeah. And then for white, I'm gonna go Horus Heresy, Death Guard. So the OG white and green Death Guard scheme, or the Dusk Raiders as they were known at the time. I even with 40K, when you see some of the Death Guard armies painted up, painting white is not something that I've got in me. But kudos to anyone who does, because it looks so much better than the green scheme. But it's just I'm not into it. I can't do it. So that's what. So for Seth, we've got red Evil Sons, white Goths, blue Death Skulls, and then my red, white, and blue Blood Angels, OG Death Guard, and the Night Lords. Chat, if you want to give us any of your colors and ways to go for those army factions, let us know. But I'm not seeing anybody right now that's covered in there, so we'll go ahead and move on. And Seth, we've got a lot to cover about 40K that has happened. So let's get into it.
There were a few things that happened in the last few weeks.
Yeah. So where do you want to start?
Well, I think let's start with the first thing they did, which was they dropped the tournament companion, essentially the tournament pack. GW's kind of recommendation for how TOs run events. Mm-hmm. There was a lot in the Leviathan tournament companion. Some of like the big bullet point changes. They changed how some of the primaries and secondaries work. So they basically changed the points on deploy servo skulls. It's no longer cumulative, and they also changed that around a bit. Rather than as it reads out of the box, the scoring can be cumulative, which basically means you can get one objective all the way in your opponent's like deployment zone for 15 points, which this is not as easy anymore. They changed deploy teleport homers and behind enemy lines with how many points you can score. Those are a a little bit more points now when you're playing the mission packet, which makes it easier for when you're either trying to draw them or you play them both as fixed. So it kind of gives you a bit more options there. Don't hit my microphone. So those are just kind of little tweaks. That was cool.
All good balance patches. I know the servo skulls. That one in particular, folks were a little worried about running up the score early and that impacting the game. So this one brings it down a little bit. The game still plays the same, but that removing cumulative is a good quality of life update.
Yeah. Now, the big thing that everyone was hoping to get and we got was the kind of fixed list of missions that they recommend.
That one.
That to me, you want terrain, not a terrain, whatever. We'll talk about terrain. I think that's huge because there were so many potential combinations out there rules wise for the missions because you got a different deployment, mission rule, and primary for combinations. You had, I'm sure, someone much better at math than me, but hundreds of combinations, which to me was just kind of hard to wrap my head around. This really kind of narrows it down and helps you kind of hone in on it. Interestingly, they basically have all the deployments and all the primary missions in there, which makes sense. They really trimmed down on the mission rules that we're seeing. So Chilling Reign is super common, which is basically there is no mission rules. It's just play the game as is. The ones they chose to include are interesting. Hidden Supplies adds another objective to the table. So it puts a 6th objective, but 4th in No Man's Land. So you're adding one to that No Man's Land area, which is interesting to kind of see that because they did that on one of the missions that has deploy servo skulls, which is football, which is pick the objectives up and shove them towards your opponent's side of the board. And now there's 4 objectives to do that with, which is a lot. The other 2 they chose to do, Chosen Battlefield pops up a few times. That's another interesting one because that's player placed objectives, which I think is a little controversial because you can really stack that to your advantage because you place the objectives before you know attacker defender. And with 5 objectives on the table, I could put effectively, 1 in my deployment zone, 2 in No Man's Land, but they're just barely in No Man's Land, so that I can still score them in my side. And if I end up winning the roll and I choose that deployment zone, I'm going to have an advantage. And in the right mission, the right primary mission, that could be a big deal. So keep that in mind. And then the last one they chose to add, which only really pops up once, is Scrambler Field, which basically is you can't deep strike, you can't scout move, you can't forward deploy on this objective, but they do it on a mission that's the ritual, which is crazy because you only have 1 midfield objective to start with, but you do actions to set up other midfield objectives, which means you can do actions to set up objectives which then screen out deep strikers. Just the objective itself, that's like, my brain hurts a little bit. So there's definitely some really interesting combos here. Importantly, there are 15 missions here total, which very much allows TOs to pick and choose. So if there's combos on this list you don't like, it's not like there's only 6 missions in the set. And if you're running a 6-mission event, you're probably going to have to use each mission once. This is enough flexibility that even something like LVO, which has, if you count the shadow round, 10 rounds of 40K, we could still play a different mission every round. So I think if one of these is a problematic combo, I like that they put out 15 so that TOs can kind of pick and choose. And it also gives variety. We're not playing the same missions over and over and over again, because that was kind of a big complaint from Ninth, which was the missions were starting to feel really samey, really exactly the same every time. So I'm interested. I've been playing around with them. It's been fun, so I'm excited. I think we both talked about I have an RTT coming up this weekend. I believe you do too.
I do. Yeah.
So we're both going to get our feet wet with these missions this weekend and see how they work out.
Yeah. Seth, I'll note before we go into the train part of this too. I mean, this was coming from Games Workshop as these are the recommendations, and they even have some details on what missions should be used based on the format. How many rounds? Is it a 1 day? 3-round RTT? Is it a longer event? But folks, if you don't want to do that, you don't have to.
You can still generate your own missions if you as a TO want to. These are just what they're giving us to work from. And I think it's a good place to start.
Yeah, and speaking of other things that are recommended or a good place to start, and you can see if you're watching the stream here, there's terrain setups. I'm going to show
Hmm.
one on the screen here that is it's terrain layout 2. There are four, count them, four
Hmm.
terrain layouts that are suggested by Games Workshop. They do go into as well for describing these how they're going to be set, where there are effectively bases for the terrain and then terrain pieces. Is that right, Seth? Is that an accurate
Yeah,
description for how
they
these are?
basically are showing here's the footprint of the terrain, and then here is where walls essentially will exist. Their terrain, it's interesting. So they pointed out that square footage wise, it's actually less square footage than their setups were in ninth, but it's
Hmm.
more coverage because they split that terrain up into more smaller pieces. Um, this is GW setup. GW has always had their own setup. I think you're going to see some folks play with the setup, but I certainly think that uh, a lot of other systems like player place terrain are still going to exist in 10th edition. And I think there are going to be other predefined setups like WTC, I'm sure, is going to publish their own terrain set here soon. And I'm going to imagine it's going to be different than GW. Importantly, with terrain, they did state that objectives can be in terrain now. They just can't be in the
Yes.
walls, which is very interesting. And the kind of the big critique I've heard against the GW terrain is all of those pieces are ruins.
Yeah, that's the part that I
Um,
don't like. I like having some, and it's
yeah,
different, right? Terrain rules are different now in 10th edition than they were ninth. But I don't want to be playing on necessarily a cityscape all the time. I want some
yeah,
forests, I
provide
want
some
some craters,
variety.
I want
Yeah,
some other things that are in there that are included. But
yeah.
for having that part set.
So that's the terrain layouts. I have been told that the FLG terrain setup will be in the LSO pack, which is coming next week. They're basically done with it. I just don't have the unlimited authority to publish that to you guys. That would be Kicker, and he's not here. So everyone,
Where
harangue Kicker for not
hang
being
on,
here
where
tonight and going
yeah,
on vacation with his wife.
yeah.
How dare he?
Yeah, Seth and I are not quite bold enough to take that step, so
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
keep that we'll keep that
yeah.
one for the lead
Now,
guy.
Now that was GW's guidance on tournaments, and
Yeah.
then they went one step further, and only 2 weeks into the edition, with 2 weeks of events under the belt, they released erratas and points updates today.
So Seth, this guy that's here on screen,
Yes,
did he go the Wraith Knight? Did the Wraith Knight go untouched?
no, he was touched several times, unfortunately. Now the big thing coming out of the last weekend was there were 11 GT size events in the past weekend. 9 of those were won by Eldar. That
That's
is a lot of
yeah.
Eldar wins, guys. I'm sorry. Uh, clearly,
And
Eldar needed.
this is Craft World Eldar. We're not talking
Yeah.
Drukhari. This is Craft World Eldar,
Yep.
right?
Yep. This is just the crap. I told you guys I'm not 100% yet.
He's hanging
Yeah,
in.
I'm trying. Now, they did fix fate dice to an extent in limiting that as once per phase, because the kind of wombo combo was to take the big old boy over there, shove him up the field, dump all your fate dice, and just do like 30 bajillion mortal wounds to your opponent.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it because between towering, being able to see through terrain, and the fate dice and the devastating wounds on that model, it was a highly oppressive combo. So they adjusted fate dice so that you can do it only once per phase. So there's no more Hadouken superpower move out of one of these guys or a similar Eldar unit. And then across the board, if your model had towering and was decent in shooting, or if your model was indirect, it got a points hike by most of GW. So
Most
those Desolators, they're what, 37
30,
points a model now?
34, I
35.
think. Yeah,
They
something
went up,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah. They're a lot more expensive than they used to be. I think for most Space Marine players, they're still probably going to be fielding a unit of, maybe 2 units of 5, 1 unit of 10. with the bolter drill enhancement. Maybe with the character
Yeah.
built in there from it. With Oath of Moment, having 1 unit of 10 is still good, but I think Space Marine players are gonna be swapping some things out. We did see some of the other armies, Seth, as you mentioned, that had indirect fire that took points hikes. Guard,
Yeah,
a number of
Guard Kicker
units of
was real
guard.
upset about Guard.
He was
He
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 was
reappeared he reappeared from vacation mode to tell us about that one.
yeah.
How he was upset about that.
Yeah, but not all armies that have indirect. So, for example, Death Guard, my
Yeah.
Death Guard that are
Yeah.
still sitting in the closet, the Plague Burst crawlers, they did
Yeah.
not take a hit.
Now,
Admech with some of their indirect, I don't think they took a hit either. So it's not everybody, just most.
yeah. Now you and I were talking about this before the show.
Yes.
Were you expecting a actual mechanics change to indirect and towering today, or were you expecting just a points adjustment?
I wasn't expecting there to be too many drastic changes. We're just a couple weeks out of the box,
Mm-hmm.
and so from my standpoint, Seth, I like a couple weeks out that Workshop is being hands on and making changes. I like that. We've definitely seen instances in the past, even going through ninth edition. So even AdMech, right? I just mentioned AdMech, and right now they're not doing so hot. AdMech in ninth edition when they came out, they were hot for the first 2 or 3 months. They took a hit from Games Workshop and from the rules updates, and they just got pointed out where you just didn't really see them
Mm-hmm.
get played a whole lot, right? So we want to see changes, we want to see updates, but there is such a thing as too sudden of an update or too much of an update that's there from it, and especially for the core rules, I don't expect that those are going to get changed too much early on. We'll
Mm-hmm.
see point changes, and there may be some other instances. Certainly, Games Workshop has their event coming up in a couple weeks. There's going to be a lot of data points here we have to cover. So this is not the end of changes for rules. With the indexes, there's going to be more. But Seth,
Yeah.
that's been my thoughts to it. I mean, anything else that I didn't cover?
Yeah, I think, as much as we want to see, I know there's definitely a section of the community that wanted to see actual changes to the core rules. I think it's very premature for GW to make that decision. I think they want to see if they can balance it through other means.
Yeah.
And if we get further down the line in this edition and it's still a significant problem, then I wouldn't be surprised to see them actually change our core rule functions. But this soon in the edition, I think, would be premature for them. They're not. They're definitely reacting more in 10th, more quickly in 10th than they did in 9th. But that doesn't mean that they're going to react that quickly and rewrite a core rule in 2 weeks. That would be impressive, to say the least. So
yeah, but we're gonna keep paying attention to it. So folks, as you're playing your games of 10th edition, as you're getting in for your events, come back for every Wednesday as Seth and normally Kicker, and I'm just in the background. We'll be covering all those updates as we have it, because it is a new edition. For those of you that played in early 8th edition, there's going to be a lot of changes, right? 7th to 8th was a huge change, so there's going to be more changes. It's not the be all end all, and there's going to be adaptations to the game, much like a Tyranid Hive Fleet.
And I'll just go out and say it. I'm ready to say it. Bring more chainswords. Love you, Scary.
That's for those of you who may be newer to the game. That's that's an old favorite on how you adjust to playing the game. But Seth, let's talk a little bit about how to play the game and maybe some other places that you can learn about 40K. Do you want to get us? Do you want to get us
actually
covered
very
on the
well timed, because there was a question in chat from the Ill-Tempered Fireblade, which I really feel like is just a play on my name, Seth the Mad Dog. But he was asking, is there still a Thursday show? Yes, it is called 40K Meta Chasers now. It is on its own YouTube channel, so go check them out over there. But in terms of other content that's been out, Vanguard Tactics is putting out a lot of content early here in 10th, including podcasts for Index Review of Sisters of Battle with Mitch Beard from Sister Act and Chaos Space Marines.
Good listens.
Other fun things. I don't know if you saw last week, but we finally were able to publish the crossover show I did with myself, Tabletop Titans, Play on Tabletop, and Angry Joe. Angry Joe joined the network a few weeks ago, and one of the things I wanted to do when we got him on board was do this crossover, because his audience is a lot newer to 40K, so we wanted to get some of our more veteran content creators out in front of them. So that was a lot of fun, because Joe is very much coming into this from a video game reviewer perspective. So he very much has different views on how a game should be balanced and how it should be released. And he is definitely vocal about any critiques. So if you're looking for that kind of content, head on over and check out Joe. They're getting really into Combat Patrol over there. They feel like that's kind of their primary way to play the game. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Combat Patrol content out of them. And he's making his other co-hosts from his show play the games. So he's just forcing them to fight each other, which is kind of funny to me. So that's fun. And then do you ever see this guy posting up on like all the social media on Mondays? Used to be on Instagram, but now he's got his own blog, the Meta Mondays posts.
Oh yeah. So wait, Seth, do you have new news for us?
I do have new news. Meta Monday
okay.
is joining the team.
Hey.
He's going to be, so you'll be able to find his posts every Monday on his blog as well as the Frontline Gaming blog. And if you want to support him, because I know that's a lot of work, he will also have an affiliate link just like the rest of our members. So if you want to support him over there, you can use his affiliate link to support the work he does. Because without someone collecting all that data, a lot of us talking heads have a lot less things to talk about. So a little shout out there for Joe. So, but I think that's in terms of
another Joe. Seth, are you just collecting all the Joes? Is that
really what I feel like I'm doing most of the time? Is I'm like the Thanos of content production at this point, where I'm just like, is that another person that wants to join my ching? Just keep adding them to my gauntlet, So
yeah. So I mean, you're bringing in content creators, but just there happens to be a high density of content creators in Warhammer that are named Joe.
It has become slightly difficult now that we have like multiple Joes, because I'm like, it used to just be War Games Live Joe, and then we had Angry Joe, and now we've got another Joe. I don't know if I should say his full name or not, but we have Meta Monday Joe, and so I'm just like, it's a lot of Joe. Yeah, right. That is a lot of Joes. And I can't be like, go check Joe out this week, guys, because you're gonna be like, which one? There's 3 of them now.
Now, Seth, question for you: Are you worried that these Joes are going to form like their own, sort of Justice League, or perhaps like their evil doppelgangers that just have like whatever facial hair structure they have, the inverse of it is going to like rise up and come out of the internet for us? Any concerns there?
No, but I really think I should try to find more Joe content creators, and then make a League of Joes.
A League of Joes. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway. I like that. I like that. Sounds like a good marketing opportunity here for these things.
Yes, perfect. That's really what I'm after. All right. So we did have the Community Spotlight. I put a post up today, and boy, howdy, I guess you guys missed me making that post every week because it got flooded with pictures. So Adam Peterson, he has this beautiful work in progress Terminator. He had a previous picture. There's a pelt on the other side, so I think he's going for Space Wolves. But just look at this kind of like highlighting he's got going on. He's already got battle damage on that gauntlet. It's looking amazing. Daniel Cardona's working on an Abaddon.
Looks great.
For a work in progress, I'd call it done, but apparently it's work in progress according to him. So it's looking fantastic, Daniel. Lindsay Frey, I wasn't sure if this was a loyalist night or chaos. I'm leaning chaos based on the fact that it's impaling a space marine on its sword. So good work on those nights. I like the metallic blue. We have Jory also working on knights. This is definitely more on the loyalist end of the spectrum. I feel like if Kicker was to paint a knight, Jory and Kicker really just mesh palette wise. So lots of earth tones, but still looking really cool. So I could definitely see that guy kind of striding around Mars. We have Gerode. Gerode has been working on, he actually posted a bunch of pictures of his guard.
Yeah,
these are the kind of the bombards that I thought looked really cool. So he's been working on his guard, getting his guard up to speed. Fighting Dice is a commission studio. They posted up, someone knows the Gene Stealer Cult are going to be good, and someone wanted some fantastic looking GSC. And boy, howdy did Fighting Dice deliver. Patrick Martin, who's previously posted as Votan before. This is a commission that he's been working on. He's completed the commission and delivered it. It looks fantastic. And then finally, Talon Rooney has working on some definitely not Alpha Legion Tau.
That does look like that shiny Alpha Legion blue for sure.
It looks. He also posted a bunch of other stuff. I just pulled one picture, but
Seth,
All right.
Seth is dying there. It's that might be an attempt on your life from the Alpha Legion, even suggesting that they would be part of the greater good.
I don't know. Chaos is definitely the one army I don't own.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Keep that in mind. Maybe there was something there with the Dark Gods. Damn you, Nurgle Matt. All right. So I think that's about it in terms of what I had for tonight. Final thoughts from the night from you, Nicky Dee?
Yeah, I'll keep it short here. And again, guys, quick reminder: we'll be we should be back perhaps in our full form, like full Voltron, sort of thing. Here, there's only 3 of us, not 5 of us, but I think the 3 of us are good enough to equal 5. Lions. That's.
I mean, I'm a big guy, and Kicker's really energetic. That's got to count for something.
Yeah. So we'll be back in full force next week, and Kicker especially is going to have updates for Lone Star Open, so be sure to check that out. Seth and I should also have updates from our RTTs this upcoming weekend, so we're going to be super excited for that. Seth, I will note in the chat that we did get a question from earlier asking, are we getting G.I. Joe on the channel? Have you heard of G.I. Joe?
I hear he's a real American hero.
That's what I hear too. That's what I hear too.
I will be working towards that. And that we did have a super chat right before we left from the ill-tempered fireplay, just really wanting me to know that they've been ill-tempered since October of 2001, and they're calling me out for stealing their name. That's a hefty allegation. I don't know how if I'm going to be able to live with that allegation. I might have to do a little investigation.
Only way for us to solve it, and that is for the 2 of you to battle it out at a 40K table. Play a game.
Right? I've already got we're going to be doing like a meetup Friday night before LSO, and I've already got 1 exhibition game scheduled for that. But if I really just like drop the hammer on that guy, then I can just kind of swing around, and if ill-tempered tower or fireblade is there, I take him out. But yeah, we'll have to meet up and work this out on the tabletop.
Only way to do it.
I definitely won't be pulling on all my coaching friends to get me through that game. Oh, they'll be at LVO. We'll be at LVO, right, Nicky Dee? We will be there.
You will be.
I do know that our work list keeps growing, but I will make time to settle this dread match.
I mean, there's Thursday setup time. We can make it happen, right?
As long as you're going to be the one telling Kicker that I have to step aside to play a game for a few hours.
Oh, that means more work for me. So
exactly.
Maybe
exactly. I was like, if you're telling Kicker that I have to not work and go play games for a few hours, it's all you, Nick D. So that's all I have for tonight. So let's send this one to bed. Thank you so much for joining. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Signals from the Frontline. Have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.